No one's been like Gaston, a kingpin like Gaston. No one's got a swell cleft in his chin like Gaston. As a specimen, yes, I'm intimidating. My, what a guy, that Gaston. I love that douchebag. Beauty and the Beast is the latest live-action adaptation of the 1991 animated movie. The animated movie is an iconic film filled with memorable musical numbers and was nominated for Best Picture at the 1992 Oscars. Just think about how crazy that is for a second. An animated film nominated for Best Picture. That's pretty impressive. So does this live-action adaptation live up to the original? Well, yeah, it's pretty good. You know the story to this. A spoiled rich douchebag is living it up in his giant castle when one night a haggard old lady shows up at his doorstep to take shelter from a storm and offers him a rose as a gift. The douchebag scoffs at the old lady and turns out that she's a beautiful enchantress and places a curse on him and everyone working in the castle, turning him into a terrifying beast and his servants into inanimate objects. Which really sucks for the servants if you think about it. I mean, what did they do to deserve this punishment? And it's just so harsh too. Your master's being a giant douche, so I'm gonna curse him and everybody in this bitch. Seriously, lady, who crapped in your cereal this morning? So yeah, continuing on with the story. A curse is placed on the beast in the castle, with the rose signifying an ultimatum. The beast must fall in love with someone and have that person fall in love with him before the last rose petal wilts in order to break the spell. Meanwhile, there's a beautiful girl who loves to read living in a small village with her father named Belle. One day, her father goes on a trip, gets lost in the woods, and trespasses onto the beast's castle, where he's taken prisoner by the beast. Belle finds out that the beast is holding her father captive and offers to take his place. Eventually, they grow to like each other and yada 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 lived happily ever after. The movie doesn't change much from the original 1991 animated version. They do give more backstory into Belle's past in this movie and add about 30 minutes more footage into the live-action version, but the majority of it is pretty much the same, and the same story beats are recreated in live-action with a couple changes here and there. The same songs that you loved in the original 1991 version are all here, with an additional 3 or 4 new songs added. Everyone in the film did a fine job in their roles, and I was really impressed with the set and costume design. You would think that a movie of this magnitude would utilize a lot of CGI in the backgrounds, but the majority of these sets were actually built and are masterly crafted. They look amazing on film. All the inanimate objects from the animated version are back with an additional piano character played by Stanley Tucci that I don't recall was in the original. All the servant characters are lovable and play off well with each other, especially Ewan McGregor's Lumiere and Ian McKellen's Cogsworth. You really care for these characters, and there was a pretty emotional scene at the end of the movie where all the servant characters were talking to each other that almost had me tearing up. There are some subtle changes to the beast in this version. In the 1991 animated version, the beast acts more animalistic, and you can see him running around or pacing on all fours. He doesn't do that in the live-action version. The live-action beast is portrayed to be more charming and educated. In the scene where he shows Belle the library, he mentions that he read a lot of the books in there, and even suggested some reading material to Belle, whereas in the original, the beast is nearly illiterate. The live-action beast also cracks a couple of sarcastic jokes here and there, and I feel it's a better representation on how Belle would grow to connect with the beast while being his prisoner, versus how it was shown in the original. Belle is a bookworm who loves to read, and I felt that making the beast more educated gives them something in common where a relationship can grow from. I really liked Luke Evans as Gaston. Although he isn't the same size and build as the animated version, he really captures the douchebaggery of Gaston, and I really loved the scenes that he was in. I did find that the live-action version of Gaston was a bit more dark compared to the original. Whereas cartoon Gaston was portrayed to be more of a cocky douchebag who pretty much expected Belle to accept his wedding proposal, the live-action Gaston accepted that there was more of a courting process in getting Belle's affection, and then turned straight up evil at the end when all else failed. There was also some controversy surrounding this film when Disney announced that LeFou was going to be openly gay in this movie, and to be honest, I don't really see what the big deal was all about. If Disney didn't come out and mention this, I honestly wouldn't have thought anything of it watching this film. I mean, it wasn't like they made LeFou checking out a bunch of dudes in the movie or do anything to tell the audience that he was gay. To me, he just seemed like a sidekick who had a major man crush for Gaston. In the end, Beauty and the Beast was pretty much what I expected it to be. It captures the same magic that the original has and is absolutely a beautiful film, and totally makes me a happy panda. After watching this, it actually made me appreciate the original 1991 animated version even more. Before we had Disney pumping out all these computer animated films, we had an era from the late 80s to the late 90s called the Disney Renaissance where you had people hand drawing these films. It's pretty incredible. And speaking of the Disney Renaissance, there's a live-action adaptation of The Lion King currently in the works. How do you guys feel about that? The Lion King is probably in my top 2 or 3 favorite Disney movies, and I really hope they can capture the same success that they did with Beauty and the Beast and The Jungle Book. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share it, and subscribe if you haven't already. It'll really help out the channel. Until next time, Panda out.